So I have a toilet that I suspect is leaking because I hear it run every once in a while. So what I did was put some blue food coloring down in the tank, and if it's leaking, it's going to leak that blue food coloring down into the toilet bowl, which it has. Got some blue dye down in there. So what I'm going to do is put a new toilet kit in here to fix this leaking toilet. This is the kit I picked up. I picked this one up at Lowe's. You can get them at Home Depot, on Amazon, anywhere. So this is what I'm going to use to repair this leaky toilet. The first thing I need to do is shut off the water right here. Then I'm going to go ahead and flush the toilet to drain the tank. And I'm going to remove this water line right here at the bottom of the tank. If it's on there too tight that you can't get it off with your hands, you can use a pair of pliers and get a hold of it. Just enough to get it started. You'll get a little bit of residual water come out of that, but it's not bad. I want to make sure the tank is drained completely by holding down the toilet flusher knob. There we go. Now the water is disconnected. Also underneath here, if you can see it, there's a white little plastic nut that's on the outside of this threaded pipe. That's what's holding the internal components of the toilet up inside the tank here in place. So we need to unscrew that nut right there. Do that with a pair of pliers. Get it started, and then we can take it off with our hands. I hold the inside of these components still so that they're not turning as I turn that nut off. There, so there's that nut right there. I'm going to grab a towel to absorb some of that residual water down there. It's going to drip a little bit more as I take the internal components out of the toilet tank. So that'll just help catch all that. I'm going to take off the back of the toilet tank. You can see most of the water is drained out, but there's still a little bit down in there. This is what was on the bottom of the tank. This is the threaded part right here that I took that white nut off of. So, like I said, there's some water, residual water, going to drain out onto the floor, but I've got a towel down there to catch that. Pull this hose up out of the overflow valve there, and all of this is going to be thrown away because that's what we purchased to replace. And also, down the bottom is the flapper. I'm going to take the flapper off. It just lifts straight up. So you can see this flapper, the way that disconnects right here, that just presses onto a little stop down there at the bottom of the overflow valve. And that's what holds this in place. And this rubber gasket here creates a seal, and that's what stops the water from leaking. but over time these get hard and brittle, and that's more than likely what's causing the leak right there, is that's not creating a good seal anymore. So there's a new one of those in our kit as well. Okay, so here's the new rubber flapper. I'll disconnect this part of the chain right here. There's a piece of cardboard on the bottom that has to come off, but you can see how much more soft and flexible this part of the flapper is, so it's going to create a nice seal down there on the bottom of the tank. So again, I'll just slip this part right here over the little stobs down at the bottom of the tank. Those just snap into place. We'll remove this old hook and put the new one in place. We'll adjust that after a while. So now we've got to get the rest of this, the new parts, and the new internal components into the toilet. So this part here goes down in the hole in the bottom, but we need to get a washer on there first. See the rubber washer there in the bottom of the bag. There's a new nut for the bottom of it. We'll hold on to this piece here for later. So this washer is going to go down in the hole, and then the internal components there, the threaded part's going to go through that. That's going to then, from the bottom of the tank, we're going to screw this nut on there, just like that, and that's going to create a watertight seal. And now put that down in the hole. There we go. So you can see I've got this little white nipple sticking toward the drain here. That is for this overflow hose to attach on there, and then it attaches to the top here, so any excess water runs down into the drain there and not overflowing the tank itself. I want to screw this nut onto the bottom of the internal components here. Get that as tight as I can with my fingers. I'll double check on the inside. Make sure that rubber washer is still seated. Snug this up with a pair of pliers here. It has large plastic tabs on it that lets me know it's actually just made to be finger tight. But it's a little bit easier to grab with a pair of pliers. Just don't crank down on it very much because you'll break those tabs. That rubber washer down in the bottom of the tank will actually create a good waterproof seal as long as that's real good and snug. Now I can put the water line back on. Just snug that up a little bit with a pair of pliers. Again, not so tight that I break those tabs or anything, because that's all plastic components. Just enough to make sure it's not going to leak. I want to turn the water on slowly, just in case I do have a leak, then I can turn it off. So it's filling up now. I don't have any leaks while it's filling up. You can pull this black hose out of here and see that that's where it actually fills up from. It's right there. And I don't need this hose clamp here, and I don't need this on the end of my hose either, so that's just extra stuff. I'm just going to take it out and put the end of my hose down in this hole right here. Shove it down in there pretty far so it doesn't fly out. We'll wait for that tank to fill up, and I ideally want that water level to stop right here at the bottom. There's a little water fill line, a little lip right there, and that's where we want the water to stop. What makes the water stop is this floater right here. When that raises up high enough, then it flips a switch and shuts the water off. If the water level was still low, if that was down some, then the water's going to keep running. So the way we adjust the height of the water there is by adjusting where that floater stops. Right now our water level is pretty low, so I want to dial this clockwise so that it raises that floater up. So when I let go of it, it drops down lower and makes the water turn on. So it's filling that water level up higher. Looks like it's about a 1/4 inch below the line, the water fill line, so I'm going to turn it a few more clicks. And then we'll flush it and see where it goes on its own. See, it's right there on the water fill line, so that's right where I want it. Now the problem we got to work through is, notice when I flush the handle, the flap doesn't come up high enough to stay. So what I need to do is shorten this chain right here up. See that chain? If I shorten that up a little bit, then it'll pull that flapper up high enough for the water to keep it open and flush properly. So I've got this large hook here on one of those links. I'm just going to move it down. I'm just going to move it down to a lower link there. And I'll connect it back up to the handle and just flush it and see if that'll hold it open. This is also a good time to just double check the water level line, make sure the water comes up to this line and shuts itself off. Check underneath for any leaks, make sure there's nothing dripping, because a slow drip over time will end up rotting your floors out. I don't feel any leaks. So as long as this stops where it's supposed to, I believe everything's done. Good. Looks like the water stopped right at the water level line, so everything's working fine. I'll put the tank back up on the toilet. I'll clean up some of the water that dripped on the floor and on the toilet seat and throw my old parts away, and everything's done. And that's how you repair a leaky toilet.